One of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last 5 years and have shown to not just my own kids, but people around me is to be 100% authentic. Be your true self. Many people that I know that, have come out transgender, understand to be transgender, understanding within themselves and understanding it. They've said, when I was young, I didn't want to be a little boy. I wanted to be a little girl. I wanted to play with the Barbies, or I wanted to dress up. There's little things. Sometimes those were little. But those that, when the years of puberty hit and their bodies start changing and they really don't feel that this is the body they're connected with, that they felt, they're born in the wrong body. And that's the story for many people. Was that my story? No, not necessarily. I never felt 100% uncomfortable in my body, but there was just confusion that why did I like certain things? Like, if I went shopping with friends or my family in the mall and, why did I start to like some of the female clothing? I like, I wish it was okay that it didn't matter if boys wore dresses or boys could wear makeup or what have you, but those little secret things that sometimes you just thought, well, maybe other people have those passing thoughts. I found out, no, they don't. That's definitely was what clue number one, D. But gender is not what is identified between the legs. Yeah. Gender is between the ears. So for many, many years of a lot of little confusion, what really got me to the point of what's going on in my head was to start journaling eventually and, okay, what's going on? Who am I? What am I? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? Failed relationships, just some mistakes, and just like it's darn time to figure out what's going on. I had a very, very good friend, and she's a high school teacher and very well versed in all things 2S LGBTQ, and she, other than maybe a couple more courses, would have her master's in gender studies. So we went out for coffee one time just shy of 5 years ago. And I just poured it all on the table. I shared everything I felt, teenage years, adult years, and just the confusion. And she introduced lots of new terminology to me. And I said, give me a label. And she goes, I hate to label people. And I told her, I said, we're Gen X. We need labels. I was like, we're the same age. Give me a label. What she said at the time, she goes, well, I'd have to say maybe you're gender fluid. But you're definitely, your gender type does not fit the norm. You're not cisgender. You're definitely something else. And these are terms that I'd never heard before. And she did email me a glossary of terms that really are in the LGBTQ community. So it was a lot to think about. I went home that night and I just really just a couple hours of silence, really. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, you know what? There is something to your own identity here. It's not necessarily who you like or what you like. It's about who you are. And for the first time ever, I realized that I am part of the 2S LGBTQ community. And realizing that whether it's your gender identity or expression or your sexual orientation, the biggest thing is that because I felt I wanted to feel or express one way, or I identified as different than I was assigned at birth, it didn't mean that who I liked had to change. And that was a big eye-opener. I felt that I had this feeling that I wanted to embrace this female side. What I couldn't make a disconnection was that if I felt this female side and I wanted to express female, does that mean I was supposed to like men? And it was a real struggle. And there's been experimentation, certainly, and it led to even more confusion. So when it kind of was shown to me, we call it the gender unicorn, that there's your identity, and that's how you identify. How I express, I mean, obviously, I'm expressing femininity. Just because I identify as female doesn't mean I necessarily have to express what we see as feminine, but that's who I am. That's what I want. I want to express that. Then the other half of that was, your romantic orientations. Like, well, who do you like? Who do you want to spend time with? Who are you attracted to? And that doesn't have to mean that because I'm female, I'm not straight. I'm not attracted to men. And as a woman, I'm still, and I always have been, attracted to women. It's a big root of a failed marriage, but inside my own head, things have been there for years. Things that I've kept hidden, and certainly other relationships where it was like same pattern, until all of a sudden, some education, terminology, realizing that, it's not black and white. I grew up with, yes, there's gay and straight, and we're all fine with that, but there's so much more. For me, and I thought when I went to the psychiatrist, it was like I'm under the care of a psychiatrist, but actually, I never felt like it was a mental issue. Yes, has to do with mental health, and certainly getting that diagnosis and understanding, it definitely improved my mental health for sure. But understanding and making that connection, that how I grew up, how I was assigned at birth as male, and just my mind not always connecting that something sometimes felt different. That when you looked in the mirror, not everything was exactly what you thought. Like when I thought of male and I looked in the mirror, maybe that was about 90% of what I felt, but 10% was telling me something else, and just not connecting with that and not understanding what gender dysphoria was. But so for me, that was a big part of the whole confusion. Was maybe that it was a big part, but it was a small percentage. And for me, the total elimination of dysphoria, again, this is just my story, having gender reassignment surgery for my bottom surgery last year, since that day, I have not had any dysphoria. In fact, when I came home from the hospital, a total feeling I wasn't expecting, came out of the shower, looked at myself for the first time in a full-length mirror, and tears rolled down my face, and I realized for the first time in my life that every part I saw naked in that mirror matched every thought I had in my head of what I was supposed to look like. And I didn't realize to that moment that that's what it was. It just hit me. And since that day, I know exactly who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. I have a belly, and I wear bikinis, and you know what? Some say you don't have to look feminine. It's like, I don't care. I realize I am a girly girl, and I love it. I live it, and I'm proud of it. What I did was actually I led the a little pride parade at the Unisys school here in Summerland, the international school. And that school actually goes from pre-K to grade 12. I was their guest speaker, and we met in the library, and I spoke about just 5-10 minutes about my background and who I was, and opened it to questions. And there was questions from all grades, but yeah, there were several from very young kids, and just kind of what pride means to me, and explaining what pride is, and knowing that not all countries necessarily, even acknowledge that different genders or of beyond what is biological male and female, but also different romantic or sexual orientation, but also trying not to use the terminology would have kids questioning, go back to their parents and like, what does this mean and what does this mean? But just explaining that in a lot of places in the world where you might be ostracized for being who you are, you might be put into jail because a man likes a man or a woman likes a woman rather than what they're used to in their religion, or they're allowing it just to be a man and a woman. And kind of really bringing it down to a level of a 6-year-old that could actually understand that. Those were some of the questions I would have. What does, transgender mean? And explaining that, yes, I was born and assigned male at birth, and I identified that way for many years, but just, explaining to someone who might be 6, 7, 8 years old that, I felt that way for a while, but just something didn't seem right. Something made me very confused in my head for many, many years. And then learning the different words and learning the terminologies that we have over the past, generation, that, these young kids are learning that is around them at an earlier age, just keeps an open mind for different people. And they really catch on to that. Yeah, there might be kids that not quite sure, but they'll see me, they see a female, and then they kind of question. It's like, you kind of sound like a boy. I'm like, well, I just have a deeper voice, I guess. Don't I? That it's sometimes, it's like, well, you've got a younger voice, and because you're younger, you might sound like a girl. Is that we all sound different, we all look different. That variety is the spice of life. As a lot of people say, kids are impressionable and they're gonna do what's popular. And it seems like, every 5th kid is identifying as non-binary or trans. And I think we're focusing a little too much on that. But it's not that I believe that they feel it is a fad or popular. It's like what happens in the education system, like SOGI 1, 2, 3. It's not about teaching kids to be gay, as some people say that. It's about educating the whole population that there is a variety of things, that there is a spectrum. And when you look at a true spectrum, it's like a rainbow. It's not like there's a black line between red and orange, and that it blends. When kids may feel, like say teenagers, when it may appear that many are expressing a certain way or another, and parents or adults get concerned that, well, they're going to make the wrong decision about hormones or puberty blockers, which they can't now. Puberty blockers actually just delay things, so it's not permanent. Also, on hormonal treatment, you cannot start, other than the blocking puberty, you can't start on hormone treatment until you're 18. You cannot have assignment surgery until you are 18. And truth be known is that studies show that by 14, kids know exactly who they are. Yeah, like when I came out to them and they said, Dad, we learned this in school. When I tell that story to people, they often ask me, it's like, well, what do they call you now? I'm like, they call me Dad. And they're like, well, don't call you Mom. I'm like, I did not give birth to them. They have a mom in their life, and she's their mom, and I'm their dad. And sometimes I may refer to myself as one of their parents. That's how you can be gender neutral. But I've never felt I'm anything but their dad. I do, things with them. I love hockey, and I love connecting with my kids. What most importantly is that I just like to say I'm the prettiest dad in town now with the best nails. And they're fine with that. I go by D, which is short for Darrien, and maybe one day they'll just call me D, which will be short for Dad. So other people make a big deal of it. It's not. It's the relationship that I have with my kids and the kids have with me. And that's all that matters. My kids are my heroes too. For coming out to them when they were 14 and 16, when you're kind of the age you're expecting your kids to sit you down for a discussion, having to sit them down and as their parent come out to them, and then almost nonchalantly saying that, oh, we know what you mean. We learned this in school, Dad. So yeah, that's cool. It wasn't quite that way, but it was probably over a matter of a couple of months with the adjustment. And they're like, yeah, we're fine with this. It's like, be authentic. And I think they've seen, and they've told me, they've seen me at my happiest in the last 5 years. And showing your kids what happiness means, like happiness with myself, who I am, what I'm doing, not happy because I'm with someone or they make me happy. I have found that in my mind, in my heart, my true love, yes. But they've seen me extremely happy as a single person going through what I'm going through, and they've seen me happy with a very loving partner too. And I think that's the best way to be a role model, is show your kids what happiness is and lead that way. So yeah, I do talk about suicidal thoughts. I've battled with depression probably for 15 years, and that's a big thing. Like, you know, again, talking about mental health, the stigma of being on antidepressants, reminding yourself that our brain is wired, it's chemistry, it's, you know, we don't even know what goes on with the brain, and you lose a coating of a nerve, and that could be the one that maintains the balance of, you know, depression or not. And it's okay. You know, it's okay to say you're not feeling great. That's why I post the negative. It's not all positive, but knowing that tomorrow might be a better day than today, that you're not alone. And yeah, and I've sought out counseling too. I definitely done gender counseling, working with my doctor, and yeah, one of my lowest points had really nothing to do with my transition or my gender. It was other things, but I had some of the biggest breakthroughs in counseling in my life was really about learning to be kind to myself. And, you know, I wasn't always down on myself. My counselor, she's like, you're really hard on yourself. Like, you're your worst critic. And I said, well, that came kind of from hockey. It's just like I pushed myself more than a coach could, you know, more than that awful parent in the stands, because I felt that if I pushed myself and sometimes was maybe hard on myself, there wasn't anything, if I let a bad goal in or, you know, maybe got not the best grade I could have, that, you know, a parent or a teacher or a coach, there's nothing they could say that would have been worse than what I told myself. And so it was in June of 2020 how I had that epiphany about learning to be kind to myself and be okay with myself and know that I can make mistakes. And I mean, I do for sure, but just to stop being my own critic. And it was amazing. That was a life-changing moment. Nothing to do with gender, just to being about, it's okay. You know what? You don't have to be perfect, because I'm far from it, that's for sure. But why be so critical of yourself? Life is a roller coaster, and there's ups and downs. And I like to say it's a good thing I really like roller coasters, because you're never really in the bottom of that coaster before you're going back up. You're up there pretty quick. Some of the things that made me feel real down maybe a couple of years ago, COVID was really hard for me. I'm an extreme extrovert, and when it felt like COVID took the world out from under you, and, you know, many of your friends who are introverts was like, oh, I could, like, wow, we got to Netflix, got to work from home, you know, I didn't have to see people. And I'm like, literally, it just about killed me. April 23rd, 2020, I had a plan, and I was not going to see April 24th. And I had some good friends that helped, you know, get me through the night. And, you know, and from there, things did turn around. I always say the universe will provide. You know, there is karma. And my moods began to change, and it changed for the better. And, you know, I had a bit of a falling out with a friend. We improved things a month later and buried the hatchet, and that was good. Um, I was approved for, gender reassignment surgery. I had finished what I felt at the time was finishing my book. Then realized I had a lot more to write. But at the time, I was finishing what I felt was my book. And 2 weeks later, I met someone that I've completely fallen in love with. We've been together for 2 years in a long distance relationship at that, and it's been still fantastic. So ups and downs, and it's like, I fall down 14 times a year and I get up 15 times. Doesn't matter how many times you fall down, as long as you pick yourself up and get up one more time than you fall down. Transitioning is as little or as much as you want it to be. It could be just identifying and knowing that, oh, okay, I'm different. And that's fine. We're all different. Why would I want to be the same as the person beside me? I've actually found that there are many, many people with a very similar story to myself. Those that are midlife, they have, had kids, have family. They may still be with their partner. They may have divorced because of this, and then, struggle. So there's some that are very similar stories and on the same type of journey, and then there's probably a lot that are very confused because it took someone to kind of pull it out and share some deep thoughts that we didn't grow up with this, and it's just a matter of having to educate yourself to realize, oh, and sometimes it takes someone else to help you along the way. So right. If the book helps one person to either identify or helps them be a better ally, to support somebody else, I say then I've done it for all the right reasons, even if I help one person. And even one of my 20 beta readers, it helped them come out. So I in the first version, it helps a distant cousin of mine, and I've never met them. And it's already helping. Things that I'm doing in sport, that's one of my big things going forward is I want to do a lot of advocacy and showing that people have a place in whatever sport they love, no matter what gender they are. There's so much that is about to happen that I'm really at a crossroads of life of what to do with it, where to go with it, how to devote my time to it. But the passion I'm feeling inside of, like I said, the next community that I need to help. It's not the ones whose house is burning down or stuck in a car. There's always going to be someone in our community to be the next firefighter, but I know I need to do something more, and I need to help more people, because I've helped myself. It's not about me anymore. It's about helping others. I'm very fortunate that, and I basically have wanted to make sure that I was a good role model for people I coached, my own kids, raising them up. Definitely have made a lot of mistakes of my own, but admitting your mistakes, learning from your mistakes, took me a while sometimes. Sometimes you don't learn from your mistakes, but my parents were very strong role models. My dad, being pretty much one of the founders of, this wine industry that we have here in British Columbia and in Canada. Big shoes to fill if you're going to go into that business. So yeah, he was definitely probably one of my heroes. And, we had a really good, solid upbringing in our family. That typical family. it wasn't always lovey-dovey. There was some strict rules sometimes too, but it was about finding your own way, finding what you were passionate about. Friends of my own kids, and that the lessons I've taught their kids, they said, you teach my kids every day that you live authentically. You have to be honest with yourself, be true to yourself, and that, if you can teach that to other people, you have to teach it to yourself first and then live that way and live it and truthfully, and the last 5 years I've been doing that, and it's very freeing. It's who I am. It's what I feel. I like makeup. I like the nails. I like the jewelry. I mean, it's just, I realize this is the feminine expression that I've always wanted to express. It's about down to here, my hair, and well, I can take it out too. It just wasn't very well brushed.
Oh, it is.
So,
Holy
and
smoke.
I'll grow it even longer. I like it.
Yeah, cool.
I only get with a little bit has to be trimmed off. Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Is like, I always say it's, when people say, I hope you don't take offense to this, or I'm like, if I mess up, I hope you don't get offended. I'm like, it's pretty hard to offend me. I have thick skin.
Yeah.
Because I'm a hockey referee. I can say, if you don't have thick skin if it comes to officiating, then this ain't going to cut it.
Oh, this battery's just run down. That was good timing.